Hello, everybody. How's it going? Oh, hello, Noodles. Perfect timing. We are going to continue reading our chapter book, The Magic Misfits, the second story. Today we are on chapter 19. So in the chapter we read last time, the Misfits were all getting ready for Layla's performance. She's performing at the Grand Oak Resort, opening for Sandra Santos. And she's going to get to show off her escape artist skills, and she's super excited, and this is really important to her. This is her first big solo performance, and if you recall, her dad, Mr. Dante Vernon, said that he's not going to be able to make it, and that really upset Layla, understandably, because this was really important to her, and but we don't know exactly what's going on, but he's got something that's so important, something with work that's so important that he can't reschedule it. And even Sandra called Mr. Dante Vernon in this last chapter and was like, "You have to be here," to an extent where it seemed like she wasn't just calling for Layla. It definitely seemed like there was some reason that Sandra wanted Dante Vernon there, which is a little mysterious to me. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Mr. Dante Vernon is not coming to the performance, but Layla has the support of her papa, the other Mr. Vernon, and all of her misfit friends. So let's see how it goes. Here we go. Chapter 19. The Magic Misfits climbed the stairs and stood where the stage manager told them to. Across the stage, Layla could see Sandra waiting in the wings. Her eyes were closed, like she was concentrating. Peering around the edge of the curtain, Layla looked out at the enormous crowd. People filled seats from the front of the orchestra to the back, from the railing of the balcony all the way up to the nosebleed section. Papa was directly in the center, with a few of his cooks, all wearing their kitchen uniforms. Seeing him made her beam with calm, and when she took in the faces of her friends, she knew she'd be okay. The lights dimmed, the curtain pulled upward, and the stage manager poked her in the shoulder. "Go on, kiddo." "I thought someone might introduce me," Layla whispered. "Just introduce yourself, honey," the stage manager said, shooing her forward. "Everyone's going to love you." A spotlight turned on, blinding her. Layla held up her hand so she could see, then realized she was blocking her face. She dropped her arms to her sides. "Hello," she cried out. She felt like her voice sounded as small as a mouse's, but she recalled the last time she was on this stage, when the stakes were much higher, as they took down Bazo and saved her father. She then thought of how hard it had been to tell her friends about her secret worries and fears, and she realized that she could definitely do this. In fact, she could do it with her eyes squeezed shut. "My name is Layla Vernon." Her voice was steady now. She noticed her friends standing in the wings. She waved them toward her, and Carter, Theo, and the twins stumbled out into the stage lights, while Ridley rolled in her chair. "My friends and I have quite a show for you." The audience applauded politely. But then came one loud whoop and cheer, which Layla recognized as Papa, and her heart swelled with love for him. At the same time, she wished her papa and her dad were sitting and cheering together. First, a simple rope trick. She presented several pieces of white rope. The Magic Misfits helped her hold them up and stretch them across the stage. Then, with a quick snap of the rope, all the sections seemed to join together. The divided rope became whole. The audience gasped, impressed that a group of kids was capable of something impossible. All the hours that she and Carter had spent practicing had been worth it. The sound of the applause sent shivers down Layla's spine. She wanted to feel it again. She called out, "Some folks say that girls like me should be quiet and polite, that we should mind our manners and speak only when spoken to. To these people, I'd ask that you watch this next trick closely and see what girls like me are capable of." A worried murmur fluttered through the auditorium, filling Layla with excitement. Carter placed a chair in the center of the stage. Layla sat as Theo and Ridley very clearly tied her hands together in her lap. Then they wrapped another rope around her chest and the back of the chair so that it seemed she could barely move. Her friends then turned the chair around so that the crowd could see the knots that Layla had taught them to make. Ridley went so far as to tug on the ropes, and Layla grunted in what sounded like pain. What the crowd didn't know was that while Theo and Ridley were tying her, Layla had been tensing her muscles and keeping her wrists wide apart. As they'd looped the coils around her chest, she'd inhaled as much air as her lungs would allow, so that when it was time to escape, all she had to do was make herself smaller again. Exhaling and relaxing, the ropes became loose around her, and Layla was able to slip out from inside them. In a blink, she was free, clutching the knotted bindings in her tight fists. She leapt up on the chair and did a little jig. Wow, that's cool. That's a cool trick. The audience loved it, and they loved her. Layla let their energy feed her. "Thank you," she said with a bow, trying to keep her voice from shattering into a million giddy pieces. So that's cool. So her trick was basically to escape from being tied up. So her friends tied her up with ropes. They tied her wrists, and they tied her back around the chair, like this, like if I was tied back in this chair. But while they were doing that, she inhaled and made her chest all big, and she tensed her muscles to make her muscles big, and she held her wrists a little bit apart so that once they were all done tying her up, she went and made herself small again. So then the ropes weren't tight anymore, and she was able to just kind of wriggle out of them and escape. And now it's time for my big finale, one that is so impossible, so claustrophobic, you'll wonder if I've lost my mind for attempting it. From one of the wings, Carter and Theo had wheeled out a small trunk, only a little bit larger than a suitcase. From the other side of the stage, Ollie and Izzy strolled out carrying Layla's bleached white straitjacket, its long arms and buckles dragging across the floor. When the audience saw these props, they grew frenzied with worry and excitement, talking to one another noisily. The twins winked as they helped Layla get into the straitjacket. She reached across her chest, bringing her arms into an X shape. Click, click, click. The locks were in place now, and the jacket fit snugly, but not too snugly. So if you remember, a straitjacket basically is like a jacket, but the sleeves are extra long. So then what Layla's doing is she crosses her arms like this, and they can tie those extra long sleeves behind her back. So it's like a little then she's stuck like this. So it's part of her trick. She called out to the audience, "This time I'll need a little help from all of you. If you would, as soon as the trunk is closed and locked with me inside, please count me down from 30. Layla ducked into the trunk. The twins closed the lid, and the audience began counting down. 30, 29, 28. The other Misfits riled up the crowd, shouting, "Louder, louder," and "She can't hear you," and "Go, Layla, go!" 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. Do you think she's going to be able to get out? Inside the box, Layla wiggled and worked to free herself. She listened to the audience as she methodically worked one arm loose. She raised it to her mouth and pulled the fake skin away, moving her lucky lockpicks between her lips before snatching them with her newly freed fingers. From there, she struggled to reach each of the locks that the twins had attached to the jacket. There was very little room for her to shift her body inside the trunk, but after years of practice, this feat had become one of her favorites to perform for her father's back at the magic shop. Noodles, your tail's in the way. 11, 10, 9. But before the audience could say 8, Layla popped out of the trunk. Everyone gasped in surprise. With a simple shimmy of her shoulders, the jacket slipped away and she held up her arms in triumph. The noise in the auditorium was more than Layla could have expected. Her eardrums rattled like castanets. She was so pleased she fought with all her might to keep in the happy tears. She reached out for her friends and gathered them together for a final bow. Hopefully, this show would be the first of many. Yay! So they were able to succeed in all of the tricks that they had planned. The audience loved it. Layla is ecstatic. She's so happy right now. And she's so proud of not only her, but her friends too. Peering past the glare of the stage lights, she saw her papa clapping ecstatically and waving to her. The sight of him filled her with rainbow reflections, sunny skies, memories of hot chocolate, and the warmest laughter in the whole world. And that is the end of our chapter. So Layla did it. The performance went really well. Her friends were able to help her. You know, her papa, the other Mr. Vernon, was there to cheer her on. And she's really happy. And, you know, Mr. Dante Vernon wasn't there, but Layla did it anyway. And she's really proud of herself, and she still feels loved. From her papa, from the Misfits, and from Mr. Dante Vernon too, even though he wasn't able to be there. But remember, after Layla's performance is Sandra's. I wonder if they're going to talk us through that. I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out in the next chapter. Chapter 20 is the next one. And we'll see if we get to hear about Sandra's performance, doing her like psychic thing. And we still have a lot of mysteries to unsolve. The Misfits still have to go back and check out the entrance to these underground tunnels and find out what that's all about. Layla's key was still a mystery. What's going on with Mr. Dante Vernon? Because he's being a little suspicious too, right? So, I don't know. We got a lot of questions to answer. But I'm really proud of Layla. I'm really proud of her friends. Are you proud of them? It would have been really cool to actually be able to see that performance, right? But I hope you could kind of picture it in your head. All right, my friends. See you next time. Say bye, Noodles. Bye-bye.